How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be talking about Junji Ito's The Liminal Zone. Really excited for this one. I think this is actually the first manga I've talked about on here, and really glad to finally get to be doing one of these. I read a bit of Ito back when I was in college, and I remember being, really impressed with all the crazy stuff he's pulled off. So I wanted to get back into reading him now, and just as I was thinking about this, it was really a thought that kind of came out of nowhere. I just suddenly thought, I really should read some of his stuff, and then I go to my local comic book shop, and they have a bunch of these set out. He just put out a new one, and I was really curious, I'm like, I read some of his older stuff. What's the new Junji Ito like? Well, he's still got it. Lots of great, crazy, the Junji Ito style. Really cool stuff in here. And these are all relatively new stories. There's an afterword in the back with some really interesting stuff in it. He talked about how he made these during the early days of the pandemic, during 2020. And, he said he had to publish these digitally, which he hadn't really done before. And one of the big things doing digital comics versus paper comics is magazines pretty much limited him to 35 pages. And he would always feel that he had to, shorten his stories a little bit. But here, with no page limits, he really allows them to breathe. And, there's like moments towards the end of the story where he can do full page splashes without really having to worry if he's keeping his stuff under the page limit. This book is about 200 pages. It has 4 stories. The first 2 are about 60 pages, and the last 2 are about 40. So, yeah, each one of these going over that page limit, and really good to see him let his stories breathe with this new option. Another thing that I found really interesting, the title, The Liminal Zone. I thought that was a cool title, but I had to look up the word liminal, and according to Google, liminal is when something's on the edge of changing. The edge of changing, but hasn't quite changed yet. And that is really thematically appropriate to all the characters in these stories. All their lives are right on the edge of changing, usually with some crazy spiritual thing. Interesting stuff. I'm going to do a little bit of synopsises of the stories in here. No major spoilers, but let's read the titles and synopsis. First up, Weeping Woman Way. This is a really interesting story where these 2 people, soon-to-be husband and wife, are traveling through the countryside, and they go to this small town and see a professional mourner at a funeral. After seeing this, the girlfriend can't stop crying. No matter what she does, she always cries. They go back to the city, and behind the city, kind of through the swamp, they find the mystical world of Weeping Woman Way. So, yeah, there's a whole world to these Weeping Women, and we get sort of an insight into this really crazy story. Really, towards the end of this, it kind of feels like a Sam Raimi movie. Cool stuff. After that, a really creepy cultist story. This one's called Madonna. This girl goes to a Catholic school, and she soon attracts the attention of the headmaster. The headmaster invites her to a secret sermon that not everybody gets to go to, and it turns out they're looking for the reincarnation of the Virgin Mary, and the headmaster does have some of his own more personal, creepy goals that he wants to fulfill too. We'll find out about that as you read it, but really creepy, and some stuff in here pretty true to life for real life cults. After that, The Spirit Flow of Aokigahara. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, but I believe that's the famous suicide forest in Japan. And in this story, we get a young couple. He's dying of a terminal illness, so he wants to die on his own terms. He wants to kill himself, and the girlfriend's going with him. They're going to do it together. When they're in the forest, they find a special cave that looks like a dragon's face, and it turns out when you die, the souls pass out of this cave mouth, and it looks like the dragon's breathing fire, and they call that the spirit flow. Well, having nothing to live for, the guy with the terminal illness jumps in, and after the spirit flow clears, turns out he's changed a little bit, and it's going to be sort of an obsession with the spirit flow here. And it does get to some pretty weird territory. After that, we have Slumber. And Slumber kind of feels like Junji Ito doing a Italian giallo-style story. This guy has dreams where he's killing people, even though he's just a regular student and he would never do that. His girlfriend hears about this and tries to talk him down, but all the faces of the people he saw in his dreams are on the news, and he thinks he's becoming a killer when he goes to bed. But of course, there's more to the story than just that, and I'll let you read yourself and unravel the mystery. But yeah, lots of really cool stuff in here. Definitely some memorable moments with Junji Ito's style. And yeah, 4 oversized stories for only 20 bucks. Yeah, it's pretty good, especially with this nice hardcover with dust jacket and everything. Without further ado, let's switch to the close-up camera so we can take a closer look at this release. I'll show you guys the release. I'll show you guys a bit more of the stories and the art, and, you know, just do a bit of a deeper dive. So anyway, without further ado, to the close-up camera. Alright, here we are inside the castle, taking a closer look at the Liminal Zone. Right off the bat, I really do want to say I love this cover. A really cool cover. In the background, we're incorporating elements from various stories within this collection. And this girl on the front cover, you know, is doing the one face looking one way, one face looking the other. Like I said, liminal, on the edge of change, and a really nice beaded dress she's wearing here. The spine is got the foil. The foil is kind of nice. I do wish that there was something in the print, like if they had put just like a little black drop shadow, that would make it a little easier to read, because it's really a light silver, and against this light blue, it blends in a little bit. And then we get the Weeping Virgin Mary on the back. Destiny awaits. And then here's some information. 19.99 USA. A pretty reasonable price for a hardcover graphic novel, 200 pages, and in a pretty good quality with a dust jacket and everything. I always found that, you know, these Viz signature books, yeah, they can get a little pricey, but that usually is because the books are pretty thick and they want to keep up good quality standards. So for what they are, they're actually relatively cheap, and I do love what Viz is doing with these releases. Nice hardcover releases. T+, and yeah, there's the Viz logo there. And I guess I'll go ahead and slide the dust jacket off. There's the inside with the Dreamer story on that. And other side, dust jacket with a page from Weeping Woman Way. And sliding the dust jacket off, it does have under artwork. So there's the Weeping Woman Way with the spiritual, well, actually, is that the spiritual flow, or that's just the walkway? Never mind. And then there's essentially the same spine, and then on the back, the Dreamer here. So yeah, a pretty good release even without the cover, although I really do love the cover, but I do like the nice underwork here. Anyway, we also do have, I guess I'll start off in the back, because he does give an afterword, and I always want to thank whenever they do afterwards, because, you know, you get the stories, and it really does kind of feel, you know, like they came down, and you don't, I want to know a little bit about where they came from and what he was going for. But yeah, he talks about, note here, this introduction was written in January 26, 2021, it took about a year, a little more, a year and a half to come to America. So he's writing from January 2021, and he's talking about, his feelings, being sad at the beginning of the pandemic, and writing these stories, and like I said earlier in the video, he's doing this digitally so he can go longer than he normally can. And then he talks about how a lot of these stories he had kind of on the back burner for a while, and now is the perfect time to do them, and a little bit about where each one came from. So that's just really nice. I do like the bonus features and the added commentary. Anyway, underneath Mary here is the table of contents, and we get the 4 stories, and each one is going to have a title page, which I really do like the title artwork there. And let's go ahead and talk a little bit about each story and show a little bit of the artwork. Like I said, I'll be doing no major spoilers, so I'll be avoiding the end bits and any major twist. Sadly, that does mean avoiding a lot of his crazier artwork, but I'll save that for you guys to discover firsthand. But anyway, here's this nice young couple in Weeping Woman Way, and they're getting off a train when they hear this sobbing. And they follow it to a funeral where a businessman will explain that the woman inside is a professional mourner. It's kind of an old-timey custom that not too many people outside of their village seem to be even aware of. However, shortly after this encounter, the girlfriend will be overcome with emotions, and she'll start to cry as well. She'll start to feel really, really sad. And, the boyfriend, of course, is going to try to comfort her, but even after they leave the town and their wedding is approaching, he actually wakes up and finds the bed completely soaking with water. And yeah, this is becoming not just a sad thing for her, but also probably a medical problem, and they have to figure out what's going on. So the advice from the fortune teller they go to says that they need to take the train back to the village and see if they can figure out what happened. And I really do like her sunglasses there. I talked about the Dreamer story feeling a bit like a Giallo, but man, she kind of looks like a Giallo character there with those glasses. But of course, the people in the village say, I know that funeral you're talking about, but we had no professional mourner. People here don't do that anymore. So of course, they start to hike into the woods, and she is still sad about it when they hear the sobs, and you get to see kind of the personification of the text throughout here with these, bubbles running through the forest, and they follow the sound of the sobbing deep into the swamp, and that's where they will encounter Weeping Woman Way. So a little village hidden off in the swamp, and before they go there, faces will, appear in the insects and spook them. But there is a whole world of the Weeping Woman down Weeping Woman Way, and I won't spoil all the craziness it goes into, but that being said, the ending of this one does get to some super fun Sam Raimi-esque moments, and there's a whole history, I really didn't go that far into this story. There is a whole lot more to unpack, and I'm still flipping pages to get to the next story. Just 1 second. Oh man, just flipping to get to the next story, I'm reminded of all the crazy moments from this one. Anyway, after this, we have the cultist story, the Madonna, and I'm going to try to be very careful to not show you the last page of the previous story, because again, I don't want to spoil anything. But the Madonna, you get a bunch of girls in an all-girls Catholic school. You get the wife, who everyone says is really evil, and she's staring at the kids. But then you get your main girl there, and the headmaster starts to stare right at her, and they're like, hey, Maria, he's staring right at you. And of course, her name is very similar to Mary, definitely on purpose there. But you get things like the headmaster's wife being really evil and cranky, and because the two of them whispered, they have to pray all night until one of them passes out, and the other one, the main character, says, "Oh, don't worry, I'll do her prayers," and that's when, you know, she hears the girl's name is like Mary. Well, shortly after this, we do get some creepy moments to let you know that something's up. There's rumors that the headmaster was married before and may have had an affair, so he's kind of a creepy guy. And salt drips out of her roommate's ear. Don't worry, this is Junji Ito. There is going to be some strange things happening. Also, like when she goes to the courtyard and finds these weird salt people, and one of the weird girls is going to be licking them, which... yeah, that's a great idea. Just lick the weird salt bodies. But anyway, she's done with class, and the headmaster says, "Hey, I want you to come and see me." And he does a private tour. All the founders, that's what the wife used to look like back in the day. And she was so much more gentle. And you know, you get the moments where he's being way too honest. And he's like, "Can you believe that? There's no hint of that kindness now." So yeah, just ultimately, just outright talking about how bad your wife is to one of the students. But you know, you do get a fair bit of the history, but he invites the girl over to the secret services that not everyone gets to go to, and a lot of the girls here seem very, very afraid. And we do get one of her little inner monologues, her thinking that, oh, they're worshiping Mary like she was a god, but she wasn't a god. That's part of the point of the story. So the idea that, you know, the cult is going off and, you know, not following the initial story and starting to do their own thing, and there's rumors of this guy being a creeper, but, you know, what's up with the salt? Why are Mary's eyes bleeding? And what exactly is the history? And why are these girls so afraid? So that's the setup, but there's a lot more questions to answer here, but I won't go any further than that. There's some big creepy moments and some cool reveals towards the end. Like I said, I barely talked about the history of this place, and there definitely is some history behind the cult leader, and, you know, and how many women and what is he doing? But anyway, after that, we do get the spirit flow of Aokigahara. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. And there's our three main characters, and we get to see these two. They're a couple. He's got his terminal illness, and she can't live without him. And they're going into the suicide forest, and why they camp for the night, they see in the distance this little zush, zush, zush sound and a passing bright light. And they're like, you know, we don't got anything else planned, really. Let's go deeper into the forest and try to see what's going on. Like, let's find out what that light is before we go. And we see all the trees are bent in one direction, and all their bark got stripped off. And we can see from an aerial view that it's a line in the forest of these bare trees. Well, where does this go? And they follow the thing back to their source, and it's this big cave that looks like a dragon's head. And they look down it, and he starts to talk about this bit of folklore about spirits passing out of a dragon's mouth like flames. And he says this must be the road that the dead travel down, and that during the night, the ghosts come out of this cave mouth and, you know, shoot off into the afterlife. And they decide to camp the night here, even though they didn't pack enough food because they didn't think they'd be here that long. And they start to starve and wait for it. And, of course, the cave is going to fire up again. And when the cave fires up, it shoots out, and there's all these faces rushing by, the spirits of the dead. and having nothing to live for, and just curious about it, why don't we just go ahead and jump in, which the girlfriend's going to be upset about. She waits around for the day to pass, and the next morning is lucky enough to find her boyfriend clinging to one of the trees, and he's still alive. But he's slicked down and wet from all the spirits hitting him, and he's got a little bit of a glow, and he's not hungry anymore, and he wants to stay and study the spirit flow and continue to jump inside of it whenever he gets a chance to. So we see an obsession with something new, and we see him starting to smoothen out a little bit and starting to not need food. The spirit flow is going to start to affect him, and it's going to be this interesting, really kind of creepy story about, just obsession and not letting this thing go and needing it more and more, So needless to say, when the girlfriend gets sent off, she's going to come back to find a crazy Junji Ito story. So yeah, definitely some very bizarre moments towards the end there. Overall, pretty cool. After that, I think I've been mistakenly calling it The Dreamer, but we have Slumber, and we get him sleeping, and we get the first words actually on the title page. I am, and then Takuma Terera. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. I'm obviously, Japanese is not my native tongue, but I'll try. But we get him talking about how when he's asleep, he doesn't, have the troubles of life, and that when he wakes up, life's troubles start to flood back into him, but he loves that moment of peace when he just woke up, but doesn't remember all the terror. Well, that's going to be disrupted because he's waking up from a nightmare, and he turns on the TV to find them talking about a murder. Well, they show the face of the murdered girl, and that's the face of the girl that he saw murdered in his dream. From his point of view, this is very much a giallo shot. I really think I could have seen this in an old-time early giallo slasher film. The point of view camera raising the knife up to the head, and even the little fact that the panels are in these hooded silhouette shapes. But yeah, a really cool old-timey slasher mystery here. But he sees, and we get a really good Junji Ito shot here of this dead girl, really just horrifying. And part of the killer's MO is he takes his hoodie off and he drapes it over the victim, which gotta be expensive after a while, buying a new hoodie each time, gee. But that's his MO, that's what the killer does, and of course, this is going to affect his grades. He can't really study. He's scared that when he's going to sleep, he might be killing people. Well, we do get a couple other clues. I won't go into too many spoilers, but one night, he's having a dream about killing people, and he sees a mysterious witness peeking over this fence, and this man with the big eyes will come in a few times later, staring at him, being really creepy. Who is this character? What is he up to? But when he sees that there's a witness, you get this really nice panel or page rather, and this does continue on afterwards, where he's hearing single words that, are from a possible future, where they're talking witness, investigation, arrest, media, trial, and then it goes all the way to hanging, and it will keep returning to this word hanging, And to be honest, I didn't know they still hung people. I thought they were all using lethal injection nowadays, but yeah, I guess they still hang people in parts of the world, which is a really iconic way to go, but, whatever. Anyway, we will also get a character coming in a little later to the story, his girlfriend character, who is going to try to convince him that he's not a murderer. I know you too well for this. There has to be something more to this story. And there is a bit of a mystery with some very giallo-esque, I've said it before, but giallo-esque twists and turns. So, again, a fun story. I think Slumber might be the weakest in this set, but that being said, still pretty memorable. Lots of crazy, different moments, and with the extended page count, does really give these stories some time to breathe. Let me put the dust jacket back on. So overall, I did like all 4 of these stories. I thought they were pretty cool, and I've definitely been thinking about them the few days after reading this book. So, you know, that's always the test, is, you know, do you think about the stories after you finish the book? And I definitely have been. I think this is a really fun book. Junji Ito definitely still has it. I like the longer story formats, and I just love what Viz is doing with these releases. So, definitely looking forward to more of his stuff. I really love all these books. I have picked up a few more after purchasing this. I purchased it, I read it, I really loved it, and I went out and bought more of Ito's stuff. So hopefully I'll get to some of those pretty soon. So keep an eye out for that. Anyway, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll leave a relevant playlist on the bottom. This should be my horror comics playlist, so if you want to see me talk about other horror books, lots of cool stuff to discover there. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Relevant playlist on the bottom. Have a good day now.